Thanks for checking out this horror movie superlatives video. So stick around, get my picks for the year 2007 for horror movies, and then you can go to your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete's channel, which is linked in my description, and you can check out his video of the same name, get his picks, and then if you want to, you can come back to my channel, go to the community tab, and vote for who you think had the best picks, or whose line up best with yours, or who had the best justifications, whatever you want to do. There's also a tie option because people ask for that. And also, go ahead and comment on these videos and tell us what your picks for that year might be, what we use as letterboxed to look up the all the horror films for that year, and that's what we use from our pool to grab from. So you can do the same thing and then let us know what your picks would end up being, because that's always fun. While I'm on this sort of rant, go ahead and hit a thumbs up on both of our videos, all of our videos, subscribe to our channels, hit the notification bell buttons on our channels, and for me, I do have memberships available at the moment if anyone's interested in that, also linked in the description. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to my picks for 2007. The most amazing film for me has got to be the film The Mist, and I do have to admit, I just saw it for the very first time very recently, probably when I'm doing this video, like a little over a week ago. Stephen King adaptation, a very good Stephen King adaptation, basically about a bunch of people in a smaller town where a mysterious mist kind of comes into town and something is inside of it. And some people start getting killed, so people start trying to seclude themselves. And it mainly focuses on a bunch of the townsfolk who end up being holed up in this very small local grocery store. And then it's just basically about, in typical Stephen King fashion, it's basically about how things start to devolve amongst the people, and they're having issues with each other while they're also trying to fight off what is in the mist. And it is a very well shot film. It's done by Frank Darabont. You can see the beginnings of what would become The Walking Dead, because Frank Darabont did this film before he started doing the first season of The Walking Dead. Some very similar themes going on in those two, in the film and that TV series. And yeah, it looks great. It has great characters. The writing is phenomenal, especially because it's based off a Stephen King book. But the adaptation of that book is wonderfully handled. Great acting in this film as well. And the story is really well developed, but it's also rough. This is not a feel-good film. It makes you feel all the things you don't want to feel, and the ending itself is shocking. I'm not going to spoil that, but definitely would recommend checking out The Mist if you have not. And for all these reasons, that's why I picked The Mist as 2007's most amazing film. So the next film is the Best So Bad It's Good. A lot of these films I don't own, by the way. Two of them I do later on. So for Best So Bad It's Good, I'm sure a lot of people have not seen this. It's a film called Shrooms. And yes, it's about what you would think. It's about a bunch of friends who go off into the woods to look for magic mushrooms. They decide to make a tea with it, get all messed up and loopy and psychedelic, and then all of a sudden there's someone coming around killing them. So it is a slasher. It's a trippy slasher in essence, because as these people are being stalked and killed, they're also tripping. They're dealing with that issue as well. The film, obviously, since it's my So Bad It's Good pick, is not great, but it's actually a little bit better than you would think it is. It's actually pretty fun, and it's a bit funny with the whole shrooms aspect thrown into it. So while it's not a good film, it is a fun film. So I recommend checking it out. Don't love where it goes in the very end of the film. Some people might, but the kills are a good time. There are some really cool visuals in it, and like I said, the whole shrooms aspect, kind of funny. I enjoy this film, so that's why Shrooms is my pick for the Best So Bad It's Good of 2007. The next one is the most WTF category, and that is also based off of a book, much like The Mist. This one is based off a book by Jack Ketchum. It is The Girl Next Door, and this one is WTF because there's a lot of terrible things that are done to a young woman in this film. It's kind of hard to sit through. It is disturbing, it is shocking, and from what I understand, not as much as the book. The book is even worse, apparently, but the film is bad enough, and it's very WTF at many moments. But what it's basically about is a young woman who is abducted by, well, terrible things are done to her by her aunt that she is staying with because of issues with her parents. And it's about kind of the involvement of the young boys. Like the film basically starts out with one of the young boys who had seen what was going on. He's older and he's kind of reflecting on how he'll never forget that summer and what he saw basically. And it gets pretty terrible with what's done, and it, like I said, it's hard to watch. It's very disturbing. So that's why I have chosen The Girl Next Door as my WTF category for or pick for the WTF category for 2007. Next is the best gore, and I actually own this one on DVD. I did Hostel for that year, and now it is, no surprise, Hostel 2, Eli Roth's follow-up to the first Hostel, which was very gory and very messed up. And they even say right on here, more violent, intense, and bloody than the original. And it is, including a very wild finish to it with a severed head, a very wild severing of another appendage that people who have seen the film will understand and how that plays out. So yeah, it's very gory, it's very unflinching, just like the first one, and it's very messed up. But basically, you don't need to know much about the story. If you've seen the first Hostel film, it just picks up after the first Hostel film and kind of continues from there. It is basically focused on the same kind of underground murdering for money operation that's going on in Europe. And yeah, people are getting murdered basically. But it focuses on like this guy and his friend primarily, who are the people who are going to do this. In the first film, it focuses on potential victims, and in this one, it's focusing a bit more on the who are these people who are paying to do this. So quite interesting. The story ends up being pretty solid. I do enjoy the film to a degree, but you have to be in the right mood for it because it's so messed up. But my pick for best gore for 2007, Hostel Part 2. Then next we have the most unique, and I thought about putting this film as the most amazing for 2007, but I had to be very honest with myself, so I was able to fit it into most unique, and that has got to be Trick or Treat. I love this film so much. This is the Blu-ray, although I found out recently a 4K is coming out, so I'm going to need to get that one, because this is one of those films that I must have on the best quality possible. So if people don't know, a lot of people do know about this film, but for people who don't know about this film, it is a anthology film all about Halloween. It takes place on Halloween. It has 4 really interesting interweaving stories, and the unique aspect of it is how it takes the anthology and kind of seamlessly weaves all of the stories together so they flow extremely well. Most anthologies, they're not put together in like a great manner. Like they don't interweave a whole lot. It's basically like a host, and it's just like, here's the next story, here's the next story. With this one, it's so unique because they were able to really weave all of them together, and it makes for great rewatch value. So every time you're seeing it, you're seeing different things in one story popping up from other stories, and it's just really cool to kind of catch those things. Also unique in the sense that it created a very awesome new super duper horror villain in Sam, who has all these rules for Halloween that he is going around and enforcing with brutality. Great film. I mean, great actors in it too, like Dylan Baker and Brian Cox and Anna Paquin. It's very well done. It's a phenomenal film. Like I said, considered it for most amazing, but I think it fits pretty well for most unique. So yeah, my pick for 2007, most unique, Trick or Treat. Love it. Seriously, if you have not seen this film and you like Halloween to any degree or horror genre, you have to. Like, don't waste any more time. See the film. All right, now going to my most overrated category, and this has to be the French Extremity film Inside. It's one that I actually watched kind of later on. A lot of those French Extremity films I was watching as they were coming out in the United States. That one I caught up on a lot later, and it's just kind of over the top. It's about a woman who's pregnant and at home, and a very deranged other woman kind of breaks into her house and is after her baby, trying to cut the baby out of her, basically. So the premise is good. It's just the way it's done is very over the top. The CGI in it looks horrendous, and they keep doing this weird thing of like showing what's going on inside the womb with the baby, and it's kind of like a so bad it's good type thing, honestly. Like, it's goofy. It does not work for the film. There are also some other weird things that happen where, like, someone gets, like, his eardrums blown out, and he, all of a sudden, he becomes a zombie in essence. And it makes no sense whatsoever. Like, there's some real plot holes in this film. It mainly, obviously, as a French extremity film, is just going for shock value with the practical effects and the gore, and there is good stuff with that. But I think this is a very overrated film because people have talked about it quite a bit about, like, yeah, when you're talking about French extremity films, Inside, it's so good, it's so great. Not for me. I think it's vastly overrated, so that's why my pick for most overrated for 2007, Inside. Now, getting to one of my favorite categories, if not my favorite, most underrated. And this one, a lot of people will kind of groan when I say this, I think. It's got to be James Wan's early film, Dead Silence. When this film came out, a lot of people crapped all over it. I saw it maybe a few years after it came out, and I was like, I don't get it. Why are we all so angry about this film? Why don't people like this? To be honest, it's better than what he's been doing with these Insidious and Conjuring films, in my opinion. And you could see the beginnings of those films in Dead Silence. And Dead Silence, if you don't know, is about a community where there's this lore that there was this female ventriloquist who ended up losing her voice, and then she ended up dying, and now she's kind of after people, and people end up popping up all over the place in the town who have their tongues missing and they're dead, and it's rumored that it's her who's done it. So it's someone who's investigating this whole situation, and there are a lot of puppets, of like very creepy looking puppets that she used to use, that are used very effectively in this film. I think one of the reasons that I like this film as much as I do is because of how those puppets are handled, and I do think that that's a very like scary, creepy thing to have in films, and I think that James Wan just used them extremely well. And there's an interesting twist on it that comes later in the film that I'm not going to say because I think people should watch it if you haven't. But it's legitimately creepy and scary at times, and I think that the story's not that bad. A lot of people are like, oh, it's a terrible story, it's just so stupid. Like, yeah, a little bit, but just watch it for what it is. Like, immerse yourself in the atmosphere and be down with the scary aspect of it. I do like it, and like I said, I like it more than The Conjuring and the Insidious films. I think the Insidious films are just ridiculous. Like, over the top stupidity, in my opinion. I understand a lot of people like it, but it's just not for me. But anyway, that's why for most underrated pick for 2007, Dead Silence. Give that one a go. So again, give me your picks. Me and Uncle Pete give us your picks, or just comment on what you thought about our picks, or just talk about whatever horror stuff you want to talk about in the comments. That's also fun. But regardless, thank you for participating in this series we're doing, and thank you for your time to watch these videos. We appreciate that. And until next time, keep it brutal.